I had a happy life, or so I thought. I graduated university and was able to work at the company I wanted to work at. I met my husband Ben after I graduated university and got married to him when I was 25 years old. My husband had a good income and he was very kind. After 3 years of marriage, we had our daughter, Deborah. Since Ben and I enjoyed our times together, we were ready to welcome a new family member, so it was the best timing when we had our Debbie. Life was going smoothly, or so I thought. My name is Flora, a 30 years old housewife. I quit my job when Debbie was born because I wanted to focus on raising and taking care of Debbie. She's turning 2 years old and she's very cute and brings a smile to my face every day. Watching her grow up day by day makes me happy. Ben also adores our daughter and spends all day with her on his days off. So, on the weekends, Ben would take care of Debbie, which will be my rest time, and because of his support, I'm able to live a well-balanced life. However, these happy days were shattered by a certain event. This happened on one of the weekends. My in-laws, Brian and Carol, suddenly came to our house. I had only seen Brian and Carol only a few times a year until then. To be honest, I was not very fond of Carol. Carol did not seem to like me when I visited her after Ben proposed to me. I am not so sure if she's a good fit for being my son's wife. In addition to that, she would also say other mean comments such as, "She doesn't seem to be the type who had a good upbringing." To these mean comments, I would sharply reply, "Maybe your son was attracted to an optimistic person like me because you're such a pessimistic person." I would always argue back to her mean comments. Brian and Ben doesn't like to fight or cause any troubles, so they would try to stop me saying anything back to Carol. So, from the very beginning, Carol and I did not get along at all. So, why did Brian and Carol suddenly come to our house? Even though I was very surprised, I had no other choice but to let Brian and Carol into our house. "Hey, Brian and Carol, what brings you to our house?" "Huh? Are you stupid? We said in advance that we were coming here today, you know." "What?"
Hey, Flora, sorry. I forgot to tell you that my parents were coming today.
I thought to myself, how could he forget to tell me such things? Ben has always been somewhat forgetful like this. I quickly made enough tea for everyone. "So, how can we help you today, Brian and Carol?" "What? You didn't hear anything from Ben because I told him beforehand." "Flora and Ben, are you both having troubles communicating?" I thought it was none of her business to say such things, but I looked at my husband. Ben looked really uncomfortable and began to speak.
Actually, I talked to my parents and we're going to move into their house.
"What?"
Remember, my dad broke his leg the other day, right? Ever since then, I've been worried about him. Also, my parents are already in their 60s. Maybe it is best to move in with them and take care of them.
Wait a minute, are you agreeing with the idea of moving in with your parents?
Yes. I don't think it's a bad idea.
I was in shock with Ben. Just because Ben thought it was a good idea for him doesn't mean that he shouldn't talk to me at all about it when it is also such an important and delicate subject. Flora, don't tell me that you are opposing to this idea. Well, in any case, we're not here to ask for your opinion anyways. We care what Ben will say about this. This is an important topic for husband and wife. Let me discuss this matter with Ben and decide about it. Carol looked at me as if I was a sassy woman and left our house for the day. As soon as Brian and Carol left our place, I questioned Ben. Ben, why didn't you say anything about this to me? I can't believe you're trying to decide on such important decision without discussing it with me.
I'm sorry. I was just worried about my dad, and...
Being worried about your dad doesn't make you have the right reason not to discuss with me of moving into your parents' house. I'm just saying that you should discuss important decisions with me first before making the decision.
Alright. I'm sorry. So then, Flora, what do you think about moving in with my parents?
Honestly, I don't want to live with your parents because Carol and I don't get along well.
I knew that you would say something like that. Is there any way possible for you to move into my parents with me? I'll do anything.
Fine. Then protect me from your mother. Whenever she picks on me or be mean to me, you protect me from her. If you can't do this, we're going to get a divorce, alright?
Divorce? Isn't that too much?
I seriously mean it, because that is how much I do not get along with your mother. If you can't promise me this, I'll leave and go back to my parents' house.
Oh, okay. I promise that I will protect you. So don't you ever say that you will divorce me.
Since Ben made that promise, I decided to agree to live with his parents for the time being. Of course, I would immediately move out if that promise is broken. And a few weeks later, we moved in with Brian and Carol. The moment Carol greeted us, she bluntly said, "Oh, you're finally here. Well, please, don't give us any trouble." And she said it in such a sarcastic tone. I then lightly nudged Ben, who was beside me. Ben nervously said,
"Well, Mom, you are the one who asked us to come live with you and propose this idea, so you should treat us well. So you shouldn't cause us any trouble either."
Carol looked a little surprised, but quickly returned to her normal face and said, "Well, yes. Come on in now. I'll make you some tea." I was glad that my husband had stood up for me and spoke back to Carol. And I was glad to see that he could do it. Well, if Ben can stand up for me, I might be able to manage living with Carol this way. After putting our luggages in our room, I was having a cup of tea with Brian and Carol in the living room when I heard the front door open. I wondered who it was, but it was Alicia, my sister-in-law. "I'm home." "Oh, are Ben and his family coming over today?" "Yes, that's what I told you yesterday." I couldn't understand what was going on. Is Alicia living here now? I thought she was living on her own somewhere else. What does she mean by "I'm home"? Is she back just for a visit, or is she living here? Alicia, long time no see. Oh, hey, Flora. We are all one big family here now, aren't we? Are you living here now, Alicia? Didn't Ben tell you anything? I've been back living here for 3 months now. Ben didn't tell me about this at all. I glared at Ben coldly.
"Oh, no, I forgot to tell you."
I thought to myself, this is strike one, Ben. 2 more strikes, and he is out. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Well, we are one big family here now. Needless to say, I scolded my husband in our room after that. Then, life at Carol's house began, and as expected, Carol began to bully me right away. "Hey, Flora! Why aren't you cleaning?" "What are you talking about? I cleaned my room." "You haven't cleaned mine or Alicia's room. You also haven't mowed the lawn." What? Why should I have to do that? What? Are you speaking back to me? You should be thanking me by letting you stay at our house. I'm living here with Ben because we are worried for Brian. You asked us to live with you. Then Alicia came and sided with Carol. What's going on here? Flora, are you fighting my mother for your inability to do the housework? That's ridiculous. Huh? What is this? To me, it just seems that you just want to slack off and do nothing around. To this, I angrily said, fine then, I'll just clean up everything, and cleaned Alicia's and Carol's room. I even mowed the lawn all on my own, even though it was very hot today. While I was doing all of the household chores, which Carol and Alicia made me do, Carol and Alicia was playing with my daughter, Debbie. I wanted to tell them not to touch my daughter with their filthy hands. Of course, I reported this to my husband when he came home from work. I asked Ben to tell them off at dinner. Later, when we were all sitting around the table for dinner, Alicia and Carol were still complaining about me. What is this dish? Isn't it too bland? I really don't like this, and I don't think I can finish eating this. I can't believe that she's a housewife and a bad cook. Then, Ben put down his knife and fork and opened his mouth to speak.
Hey, Alicia and Mom, don't complain about this food, especially when Flora made them for you to enjoy.
Ben, why are you being a wuss and defending your wife for this? Don't you have a dignity as a husband? Do you actually really think that this food is really good?
I love Flora's cooking. It's very delicious.
I can see that Alicia is taking the control of this situation. Ben is not at all able to stand up against Alicia and Carol for me. I never thought my husband would be this unreliable. In my mind, this was the second strike for Ben. After that, bullying from Alicia and Carol did not stop at all and continued every day. They would try to make me do all kinds of household chores and make me run errands, and if I tried to refuse even a little, they would complain about it. Carol told me directly, "Wife belongs to this family, so it is natural for her to work for the family. You should treat me the same as Carol, so you better do whatever I tell you to do." Alicia said this after what Carol said. In other words, they are both saying I should obey to them for whatever they say. I thought Carol and Alicia must be out of their minds to say such a thing. Since I bet there are no other in-laws who are this unreasonable, I was beginning to think how to eventually leave this house. Then I received a call from my mother that my father had just suffered a stroke. I heard that it was not serious, but he was hospitalized. So I packed my bags to hurry back to visit my father, who was staying at the hospital. When Carol saw me packing my bags in my room, she said, "Flora, what are you doing?" "Oh, Carol, I'm sorry. My mother just called me and told me that my father suffered a stroke and was taken to the hospital. So I'm going to go visit him there." Then, to this, Carol said something outrageous. Who said you can leave this place? This is your home and there is no other home for you." "Huh? Well, stop packing and start with the household chores." I couldn't take it anymore. If I stayed in this house any longer, I would lose my mind. I ignored Carol and left her house. I went to see my father, who was in the hospital. Since I was also worried about my mother, I stayed at my parents' house for a couple of days and helped my mother with the housework. During my stay at my parents', Carol and Alicia kept on calling me and would leave horrible messages such as, What's the matter with you? You're Ben's wife. Stop skipping chores and come back to home at this instant. They must be really out of their minds. I was already thinking of divorcing Ben and leaving the house, but since I was so angry at Carol and Alicia, I decided to revenge on them. Revenge requires a lot of preparation. So even though I wanted to not be with them, I returned to Carol's house. Even when I returned back, Carol and Alicia complained to me about such nonsense. Then, about half a year has passed. One day at dinner, Carol said excitedly, "He proposed to me." She also said, "I'll bring him over for lunch next time." Finally, this is it. The time for revenge had come. I thought to myself this and rejoiced. Even though I was smiling because I was thinking that I can now revenge, Alicia saw my smile and said, "Oh, Flora, you're happy for me too?" A week later, Alicia brought her future husband-to-be over to the house. Alicia's fiancé's name is Ken, and he seems to be an elite, working for a major company with very high income. He looked very sincere, and he was too good for Alicia. Alicia happily introduced Ken to everyone, including me. Carol also seemed to have no complaints about Ken and said with a smile, "You have all of the blessings you can have from me. Please take good care of Alicia." From this point on, it was time for my revenge. I talked to Ken as I brought tea for everyone. I asked Ken, "After all, will you be living with your parents after you get married?"
What? Oh no, I haven't decided that far ahead yet.
No, but I heard that here in this household, if your parents are over 60 years old, you have to live with them. So, I thought you would live with your parents or with us.
No, there is no such rule in my family.
Oh, I see. There are many other rules here in this family. For example, I heard that a wife has to obey everything the in-laws would say to show gratitude to them. Also, you can't return to your home because this is your home. When my father suffered from stroke, they tried to stop me visiting my father at the hospital and instead wanted me to do their household chores for them. Ken's face was beginning to frown.
Is what Flora's saying real?
Ken asked Alicia. No, that can't be true. Flora, just because Ken is better than Ben, you're being jealous and telling Ken nonsense, aren't you? No, I am informing Ken what would it be like to get married to you and giving him advice so that he won't get any divorce record for nothing. Saying that, I played the voice recorder which had all of the recordings of Alicia and Carol bullying me right in front of Ken and everyone. Alicia and Carol's face turned pale. As soon as Ken finished hearing all of the recordings, he stood up and said this.
I'm sorry, but the wedding is off, and Alicia, this is my final goodbye.
And saying that, he left the house. Alicia and Carol was in shock and started to cry. When I saw them crying, I really felt better. Then, I packed my belongings and left this house with Debbie for good. I left my divorce paper on the table for Ben. When he found the divorce paper, Ben called me, but I told him off of how he was unreliable as a husband. Then, a couple days later, he informed me that he signed the divorce papers and sent it back to me to check. I'm so angry at him for backing down so easily and didn't fight for me at all. But then, he wasn't manly enough from the beginning. It was the best decision to divorce Ben. As for Carol, according to a neighbor I was close to, both Ben and Alicia are still staying at her house like parasites, but they don't do any housework at all. So Carol is the one who has to do all the house chores now. Furthermore, I heard that Alicia was in shock because her engagement was broken off, so she quit her job and lived poorly, while depending only on her father's pension money. Ben also wants to spend money only on his hobbies, so he doesn't bring any money into the house. Well, it's none of my business anymore, but I feel sorry for Brian, who has a horrible and useless family. On the other hand, I'm working hard at my job again while my parents are helping me raise my daughter at home. My daughter is growing up fast, and recently she has been trying her best to tell me about the events at her kindergarten. Seeing her like that makes me happy, and I will continue to devote myself to work hard for her. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. See you in the next video.